Hi, I'm Gary Engler, your socialist grandfather. Last episode was about why economic democracy would be good for the environment. Today's topic is degrowth. Despite our current economic system's clear and present danger to our environment, some so called environmentalists persist in looking to capitalism for solutions. That's like asking the fox to change the locks and build a fence around the henhouse. You can't be a serious environmentalist and support capitalism. A sustainable economy is incompatible with a system that constantly demands more profit. Now that the human population has passed 8.2 billion and is headed to 10 billion, some say we are doomed, that there are simply too many people for our Earth to support. They argue that if everyone on the planet consumed what the average Canadian and American currently does, there would simply not be enough resources. And they are probably correct. There are three logical responses to this state of affairs. One, people in North America have a right to consume more than everyone else on the planet. Two, we must somehow get rid of billions of people, especially in poor countries. Three, people in North America and elsewhere in the richest parts of the world must consume less. In a world where everyone had an approximately equal say in the economic and political sphere, the choice of number three would be guaranteed. In a world of finite resources, Earth, the logical choice would be to share those resources more or less equally. Most people would get access to more resources than those they currently consume, but some, primarily the wealthiest of the world's inhabitants, would get less. A very few ultra wealthy, ultra extravagant, ultra wasteful would get far, far less. Bye bye, billionaires. On the other hand, this would not necessarily be a zero sum calculation. It is possible, for example, that new technologies will allow for more efficient production and use of some materials. Perhaps cheaper, less harmful sources of energy may be developed. But it is almost certainly true that some people consume much more than their fair share of finite resources, and they must cut back. It is also almost certainly true that entire economies consume too much and must learn to take less. Some people feel threatened by the idea of consuming less, a degrowth economy. But everyone who cares for our environment should applaud and embrace the notion that this is necessary, right, fair for all, and needed to make the lives of billions better. The notion that every individual should have their own transportation vehicle has been one of the most destructive ideas in the history of our planet. In fact, most of the degrowth needed in the world to fairly rebalance the consumption of the world's resources could be accomplished by limiting the use of private automobiles to where they are necessary, which is primarily in rural areas. Not only would this be good for the environment and make our cities more pleasant places to live, but it would also have major positive impacts on human health. The point is, we should not fear degrowth. So much of what we consume in the me first, glorify the individual neoliberal era is not only wasteful, but also dangerously unhealthy. In a world where we are instructed only individuals exist and collective is a term of disparagement, the system wants us to fulfill our human need for social contact by consumption of ever more stuff. The result is all sorts of sickness, from addictions to depression to obesity. Degrowth would be an opportunity to improve our health, both collective and individual.